Hello there. Welcome back. As you can see, I got my crystal. I needed my crystal today because I just wanted to be in flow and allow the information to come through me. And this crystal really, really helps me. This video is going to be about the process of individuation. I mentioned this term in a previous video where I was talking about the difference between being empathetic or empathic, highly sensitive, and being codependent, and allowing yourself to have your own emotional experience and allowing other people to have their emotional experience. This is a part of a process called individuation. This comes from Carl Jung, who was one of the foremost psychologists from the 20th century, a humanist psychologist who really began to merge the psychological and the spiritual. And he talked about individuation as the process that, if one chooses to, you can undergo to become a separate, individualized, sovereign person that has a separate identity, an authentic identity to who you really are, who you came here to be. Making separation from your family of origin, making separation from your friends, making separation from what society says about who you should be, how you should act, how you should live your life. Individuation means, no, I am an individual and I'm going to give myself permission to be who I came here to be, to have full access to my information. What do I mean by that? Every soul has a unique blueprint. Every soul has a unique set of information. And as a human being with a soul, that's your stuff. That is your information about who you are, who you have been, who you are becoming, what you're here to learn, what you're here to experience, what you're here to master, who you are here to embody. What does your soul want to embody and experience in this lifetime? That is your information. And so the process of individuation is the process of separating from everybody else's information and ideas about who you should be, and more fully connecting to, accessing, and embodying who you really are on a soul level. That's individuation. I'm here to have my own journey, whatever that is. This is really also connected to the hero's journey. Many of you may have heard about that. Joseph Campbell was a fantastic researcher, thought leader, wrote a series of books on the hero's journey. That actually, the Star Wars series, George Lucas was a big fan of Joseph Campbell. And basically, Star Wars is the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell talked about how every great mythological story that we have from all different cultures follow the hero's journey, and it follows a certain pattern where the hero or the heroine has to leave his or her place of origin, has to leave the family, has to leave the town, has to leave the community. Think about Lord of the Rings, right? They've got to leave the comfort of home and set off on an adventure where they discover who they really are, what their mission is, who they came to be, and who they came here to be. And at the end of the story, they become fully self-actualized and are fully embodied and in mastery of their own authentic journey. That is the hero's journey. That is what individuation is all about. So we are all heroes and heroines of our journey. And so individuation is about allowing yourself to set on that journey, whatever that is to you. And I had to do this for myself. It was very scary. You know, when I I talked about in a previous video my connection to my intuition. And when I connected to it in 2005, 2006, that was the beginning of my journey, not the ending. I had to individualize. I had to individuate. I had to separate from my family of origin, from my friend group at the time. I had to separate from my religion, the religion that I grew up with. I had to separate from just various identities that I had identified with up until then and begin to slowly tease them away and create space between that identity and my identity. It was difficult. It was challenging. You don't want to separate from your family of origin psychologically, emotionally, sometimes even physically. It's very difficult. Well, without my family, who am I? Right? Who am I without my family? You've got to discover that. Without my friends, my friend group, my social circle, who am I? You got to find that out for yourself. For me, I made separation from being an actor. That was a part of my individuation process. I had been an actor for many, many years up until that point. It was part of my identity. I was an actor. I was a performer. It was what I thought my path was. And at that point, when I connected with my intuition and set off on this spiritual journey, it was like, who am I outside of acting? I don't even know. I had spent so much time and energy putting that into my acting career and being an actor and practicing. And don't get me wrong, that's what you have to do to master something. But I hadn't developed other parts of myself. And I got to a point where I was like, there must be more to me. There must be more to me than this. There must be more to who I am as a human being than being an actor. And so I quit acting. I walked away from acting so that I could explore all of these other parts of myself that I hadn't yet discovered. And I separated from my friend group. And that was difficult because who am I without my friends? And all the parties and all the things. And I stopped going to parties and I stopped hanging out with my friends temporarily for a time. And that was difficult. My friends, some of my friends, not all of them, but some of my friends were very confused about what I was doing. They couldn't understand, like, what's going on with Michelle? She's not acting anymore. What's going on? She's not hanging out with us anymore. And some people literally said to me, I like the old Michelle better. This new Michelle, I don't know. She's not as fun as the old Michelle. And I had to go, I understand. But I'm doing this. I'm individuating. I'm separating myself from who the world says I should be and exploring and discovering who I really am and who I want to be. I had to make separation from notions of being a woman. What is that? What does being a woman mean to me? Not what the world tells me being a woman is, being feminine is. What does it mean to me? What does being a Black woman mean to me? Not what everyone else says or other Black people's experience. What is it for me? What does my Blackness mean to me? And I had to develop my own relationship to my Blackness and to my culture. Making separation. Creating your own identity. This is what authenticity is all about. Authenticity, I talk about authenticity in my keynote speaking as one of the pillars of personal power. Authenticity, confidence, and purpose. But it starts with authenticity. And there's two pieces to authenticity. To be authentic, you have to know yourself. And then once you know yourself, you show yourself. You show your authentic self. But it starts with that knowing piece. Who am I? Who am I outside of my family? Who am I outside of my friends? Who am I outside of my church? Outside of my race? Outside of outside of my culture? Who am I? What does my soul say about that? There's so much information that we have available to us about who we really are. What is our path? What do I believe? And once you set on this path of individuation, it's really amazing the realizations that you have. And it is a part of that emotional cleanup work. It's a part of your changing your belief system so that it more closely aligns to who you are and even what you've experienced. Let me give you an example of that. So there was a time after I had, I was older and I'd had a series of relationships with men. These relationships were largely positive. And I was on a hike when I was living in Los Angeles. I was on a hike, I was in nature, and I was pondering my romantic relationships and what I believed about men. And if you had asked me at that point, what are your beliefs about men? I would have said, men can't be trusted. Men are, scary. And they were largely negative beliefs about men. And I was on this hike and I was like, wait, hold on, Michelle. Why do you believe that? Where is that coming from? Because if you look at your experience with men, that hasn't been the case. Your experience with men has been actually the men in your life have been the nurturers. The relationships that I'd had with men up until that point had been largely very nurturing, very supportive. So there was this disconnect between my actual experience, my own individual experience, and my beliefs. And I had to acknowledge that my belief that men are scary, men only want one thing, you can't trust men, those beliefs had come from my mother. They come from my mother's experiences of men. Not mine. Those weren't my experiences. So we had been programmed from a very young age because of my mother's experiences with men and her fear of men and her negative experiences with them, that this was the program I had. Men are bad, men can't be trusted, even when that didn't match my own individual experience. And so I had to acknowledge, I was like, wait a minute, Michelle. I have to individuate. I have to separate my belief system about men, which should be based on my own experience. I have to separate that from my mother's. That's not mine. That's hers. So that's an example of allowing yourself, again, to have your own experience, even your own emotional experience when it comes to certain people, whatever that is for you. Another example of making separation had to do with my experience with money. And for a long time, because I grew up in poverty and we didn't have a whole lot of money, my mother couldn't hold down a job because she had a mental illness. So there was scarcity. I experienced scarcity with money. No joke. Like we did the thing. But when I started to go out into the world and earn money, again, that was not my experience. My experience was I can get jobs easily. I do well at my jobs. I always get promoted. I'm doing all right with money. And so again, as I was going through this process of individuation and started to notice that I still had this poverty consciousness, I still had these fears and these anxieties around money and worrying around money. And wait a minute, what's going on here? Right? Because my experience is money comes to me pretty easily. And again, it was like, oh, I had to make this shift in my mind that I wasn't poor when I was a kid. I wasn't poor. My mother was poor. What I experienced was my mother's poverty, my mother's scarcity, based on her experience. And it may seem like a very small nuance, but it was huge for me. Because if you are somebody that's like, no, I'm poor, I was poor, I am poor, I am worried about money because I was poor. Were you really poor? Or were your parents poor? And you just experienced the result of their belief system. You experienced the result of their experience. So these are the kinds of separations and clarifications, reconciliations that you can begin to make around your identity, around your experience, around your belief system, around your emotional experience as you begin to make separation. And truly begin the journey, your own hero's or heroine's journey toward your own authentic identity, toward manifesting and embodying your own authentic soul blueprint, and becoming the hero or heroine of your life, the self-actualized being that you are here to be. So, how can you begin this process of individuation? One thing you can do is start to work with the roses again. And just in this moment, close your eyes, take a deep breath, ask your intuition to partner with you, and see a rose out in front of you that represents whatever it is you want to separate from. Maybe you want to separate from your family of origin. And when I say separate, I don't mean it's not necessary for you to physically separate. You may have to do that at some point. I had to do that. I had to create actual space between me and my family, but it's not required. This is more about your identity. This is more about, am I so codependent? Am I so intermingled? Am I so intertwined and entangled with other people and their experiences and their ideas about who I am and who I should be and how I should be living my life? That's what this is about. It's an energetic separation. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical, just to calm some people down. So, rose out in front of you that represents whatever it is you want to separate from. Let's just say your family of origin. I want to separate from their notions and ideas about who I am and how I should be living my life. Put a rose out in front of you. And visualize calling your energy back from that rose that represents your family. You can visualize vacuuming your energy back, seeing the energy streams leaving that rose that represent your energy. I'm just going to call my energy back from my family of origin. So that I can allow myself to have my own individual experience. And you can even talk to your family and say, I'm doing this for a time. It does not mean that I don't love you. It does not mean that I'm never coming back. I just need to give myself permission to be my own individual, authentic human being and to interact with you from that place. So call your energy back from that rose. Allow it to re-enter your energy field, reintegrate it from your energy field. And when you feel like that process is complete, you can create and destroy roses to release any fears, anxieties, doubts, worry, guilt. Guilt around being your own self, your own authentic self, separate from your family. Because I don't know about you, but I certainly experienced some guilt trips When I was going through this process of individuation, what do you mean you don't believe what we believe? What do you mean, right? So create and destroy roses to release the guilt, to become more resilient against whatever guilt trips you might get, right? Create and destroy those roses. I'm giving myself 100% permission. As a matter of fact, if you are really in touch with your visual, your inner vision, put a gauge out in front of you. It can be an analog gauge, like a big clock on the wall, like a basketball clock. It can be a gauge that has the thing like this, right? But have it go from 0 to 100. Start at, let's say, 0. And what you're going to do is, this gauge represents how much permission you are giving yourself to individuate from your family of origin. And like I said, you can do this with anybody that you feel, I need to make some separation. Right now, this is just the family of origin that we're doing this with. But allow that gauge to represent how much permission you are giving yourself to fully individuate from your family of origin. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't want to be around them. It doesn't mean you're never going to see them again. It just means you're going to be your own person. Okay? And so allow yourself to see a number on that either the gauge or the clock number in front of you, 0 to 100. And allow yourself to see that number, and that number represents currently how much permission you're giving yourself to be your own individual person. Maybe it's 20%. I'm only currently giving myself 20% permission to be my own person, separate from my family. Create and destroy roses and take that gauge all the way up to 100. I'm giving myself 100% permission to begin or continue this process of individuation. Free from guilt, free from worry, free from anxiety about me taking this journey of self-discovery, self-exploration, and becoming the person I am truly here to be. So that's another thing that you can do to really support yourself energetically as you individuate. And I'm teaching you all of these different visualization tools because this is how your intuition works with you. This is the language of spirit. This is the language of soul. This is the language of energy. This is the language of intuition. It's about symbols. It's about imagery. It's about your imagination. It's about creativity and telling your unconscious, this is what we're doing right now. We're individuating right now. Okay? And allow your unconscious to begin to show you what it is you need to move through, what it is you're feeling, what energetic entanglements there are, what contracts you may have. Ooh, that's another one. Another activity you can do. So you've got that rose where you called your energy back from your family of origin. Another thing you can do is to visualize any contracts or agreements, almost like it can be a scroll, it can be a piece of paper that pops out from your energy field, but anything that represents, this is the contract I have with my family to not be my authentic self. Pop that out from your energy field, put it in a rose, and destroy that. Create and destroy roses around any contracts or agreements that you no longer agree to. You know what? That's an old contract that it did work when I was a teenager, when I was an adolescent, but now I'm an adult, and I really need to allow myself to individuate, to separate, to become my own authentic human being. So, any contracts, agreements, to stifle myself, to not undergo that journey, that heroine's journey, I'm getting rid of it. Create and destroy roses. So these are all things that you can do that really worked for me. The big thing, the other thing to do though, is to start to connect to your information. your own soul information. And one thing that I really like to do, and I do this on a regular basis so that I stay in contact and accessing my soul information, is I will visualize big gold suns dropping down from wherever into my crown chakra, into my energy field. This is also from the Berkeley Psychic Institute. This is a part of that system of visualization and working with your intuition and working with energy that I was taught by Melinda Hess. Shout out to Melinda. But these big gold suns represent your highest information. So as you are releasing and separating from your family of origin, in this example, you're releasing and you're calling your energy back, calling back all of my energy from these people, this group of people, reintegrating it into my energy field. Any contracts, agreements, I'm releasing from my energy field. I'm creating and destroying roses to release that from my energy field, creating and destroying roses to release any emotional energy that I need to release around this agreement or contract, any guilt, any fear, any anxiety, even any anger that you may feel, whatever you need to just get rid of. Create and destroy roses. Allow that process to continue. Keep updating your gauge. How much permission are you giving yourself to fully individuate? Keep bringing that to 100%, 150%, 200% permission to go on my own heroine's journey. And then connect to your own authentic information, your highest information. Bring in those gold suns. So as you are releasing and creating space in your energy field, you are then replacing and replenishing and filling up your energy field with your highest information. Who are you? Who are you here to be? What are you here to do? What are you here to experience? What are the lessons you're here to learn? How are you to contribute based on all of your gifts, all of your talents, all of your past experience? You're going to fill yourself up with that. And that is what you start to embody. That is what you start to allow yourself to call into your life, attract those opportunities, attract those people, attract those experiences so that you can live your life. Live the life that you are here to live. So that's individuation. I'm going to be really interested to see how all of this begins to go for you. Once you start this process and really begin to work with your intuition, really begin to work with this energy, it's very interesting what tends to show up in your life, what starts to happen. But what I found is that I can't even describe to you the absolute joy and wonder and awe that I feel having now gone through this process over the last 20 years and being in a place where I am fully individuated. I am living a completely authentic life that I allowed myself to build. I allowed myself to create. I'm having experiences that reflect who I really am and what I'm here to do. I can't even tell you what that feels like. There's complete congruence between what I think, what I feel, what I believe, what I'm experiencing in my life, what I'm creating in my life. It feels amazing. So that is the benefit. That's the benefit. Total congruence. Total alignment. And you know that you're living the life that you came here to live. It's amazing. And that's what I want for all of you. So until the next video, keep doing those exercises, keep doing those activities, keep connecting to your intuition, and let me know if you have any questions. I'm here for you. I love you. Until the next video, be well.